Hello and welcome. Thanks for watching our UGA Sports YouTube page. Please subscribe while you are here. That makes it where more people can find our content, talk about the Dogs, and frankly, we just want to keep bragging that we're the most popular YouTube channel that covers Georgia. That's Brent Rollins. I'm Dane Young. Over at UGAsports.com during the season, we do a feature called Film Don't Lie. That will be returning right after Georgia plays Oregon, where we'll go and do our film reviews. It'll be on this YouTube channel. We'll have a version of it on the Vent as well. But this offseason, we've been doing this series of top returning Bulldogs based off of PFF grades. It's not what we think. It's not our personal opinion. It's not even what our rankings would be of who we think Georgia's most valuable players are. All it's saying is, Brent, Pro Football Focus, they do these rankings, and here's what they yielded last season.
Yeah, and this is, when we look at this player, it's one where you've just seen flashes of just phenomenal play. You don't get to see a lot because there's other guys that play that position. And especially when we talk about that receiving grade, that 92.1 receiving grade that Kenny McIntosh put up, it's rarefied air from a PFF grading standpoint with running backs and receiving grades for him. But overall, when you look at him coming into his senior season, I think that leadership in the offensive backfield already, you have Stetson, you have him. With him and Milton, as long as they can stay healthy, I think you're going to get insane levels of production.
Kenny McIntosh was a 6', 198 running back in the class of 2019, down from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Been at Georgia for a while at this point, and I think we definitely agree that he's Georgia's best receiver coming out of the backfield. Long enough that James Coley was a big part of his recruitment, and that's been a few years since he departed Georgia. A lot of the big players in the SEC wanted Kenny McIntosh, and for good reason. I think we've seen his potential, but like you said, his volume is about to open up quite tremendously at Georgia.
Yep. And it's the snap count. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about it as you pull up the Georgia Dog things, but the snap count for running backs is such an interesting dynamic within the Kirby era because, for example, in 2017, Chubb and Michelle basically played the exact number of snaps, right in the 350s. And then DeAndre Swift had a couple hundred snaps. And then it mixed in some others like Brian Harrion. And then 2018, it goes to where Swift is there and then Holyfield and then a little bit of Harrion. 2019, mainly Swift. Only twice. So Chubb in 2016 and then DeAndre Swift in 2019 has a running back played more than 400 snaps. And you're talking about, normal, offensive line plays in the 700s. So, Providence, Rhode Island, by the way. But
thanks for watching, Clifton.
Appreciate that. But I think this is the year with the way the backs are and not necessarily knowing about the true freshmen. I think they're going to get sprinkled in, and they'll take over, at least initially, the Daijun Edwards role, closer role, when you're up in the fourth quarter. But McIntosh, Milton, Edwards, those three guys, especially early in the season, you're going to see them get the bulk of the snaps.
McIntosh listed at 210 pounds on Georgia's roster. So that's about the normal increase that you would see out of high school to college. I think that's probably pretty accurate from what I've seen. I do know a professor that had Kenny McIntosh in his class. He's a very bright kid, kind of reserved in some ways. That's not odd for a lot of athletes in classes sometimes, but just said that he's a smart kid and he can handle the spotlight when he gets it. That's what professor told me there. Awesome. Thanks for all y'all that are watching live here, because early in the series we didn't do all of these live, so I want to give a shout out as those happen. I know this is probably Tennille, but I'm from South Georgia, so I'm gonna say Tennille because that's where I think the Edwards are from. Yeah, Kevin Cook. Curtis Maximus says Brent for Heisman.
I mean, I was actually thinking, I was inspired for this show after watching Aiden Hutchinson video singing Billie Jean on Hard Knocks last night.
Are you ready to sing for us?
I thought about opening the show that way, but then I thought that we would lose, if not all or most of our audience.
Well, let's do what we do best, which is oh, I lost it for a second. I'm still losing it.
There we go.
Rusty. We have Kenny Mac here early in the season last year. Let me circle him. Make sure you see that number 6 circled over here.
Yeah, and this
beautiful.
I think when you think about film review, and just as hey, I'm a fan. I don't dive into like high volume X's and O's and all those type of things. I think watching running backs run is one of those things where you can tell. Like even the average fan, hey, my wife's sitting there watching the game with me. Hey, he looks better than the other guy. Like the running back position is one where you can tell that natural ability and the instincts and speed and cutting ability. And I think we've seen that from Kenny Mac from day one, the vision and the ability to just get himself out of any bad position because of instant cut ability.
Yeah, I mean, he just saves plays. And the word I always come back to him, and I know we've probably even used this in the series, he's just smooth on the field. Like, he doesn't make wrong steps. He tends to, everything he does is productive, and he can bail you out.
And I think, like, just boom, boom. And ability to make guys miss, and the vision, I think the vision part for him, it's one of those that, for the most part, has always been there. The ability to stop on the dime, the ability to shift and change directions very quickly always has been there for him. I mean, I think back to the Baylor game that he got some run in back in 2019 in the bowl game. Just quick cut ability, and boom, right there. And we talk about that's forcing a missed tackle. He does that at a rate higher than over the past 3 years that he's been here, higher than any Georgia back on a sort of per attempt basis. So his ability to make people miss is the best that has been for Georgia over the past 3 years.
It turns this not only into a positive play, turned into a first down, and it should have been a tackle for loss. Let's get him in the flat.
And, we didn't earlier, obviously, and even with Stetson's video that we did a couple weeks back, we showed the catch that he had out of the backfield. But that right there, that's one where, the Chris Bermans of the world, the whoop, make the noise and on Sunday primetime. But that ability to, one, see it, and then two, stop and then go and, start and accelerate like that, that's you can't teach that. That's next level ability of starting and stopping and just the sense of a running back. And I think you see that with him more than you see a lot of backs in the SEC and just in general.
Can you think of any recent Georgia comps that he kind of fits in? Like, I think a lot of people were trying to give him Sony Michel, but I think they run pretty differently.
Michel was way more physical, I think, than him, even though the size is probably not that much different. I mean, Swift had that stop on a dime ability, but Swift also had the I'm taking it 65 gear that I don't think Kenny necessarily has. But
McIntosh is a better receiver than either of those guys. And that's a compliment because they were both really good receivers.
Yeah, he's just unique. And I think and you look at him and why has he not been on the field more? One is health. He's, in and out of the lineup at various times. But two, it's that next gear. It's hey, I've made this guy miss and made this guy miss, and now I'm taking it 60. I don't know that necessarily is there against the best of competition, but guess what? That doesn't necessarily matter at the position.
Spacing question here for you, because obviously we're looking at a short yardage situation here. It's just a couple inches to get to the first down marker here. And Arkansas loads up the box for that. So Georgia's trying to get to an edge and use his athleticism.
I think it's maybe a fourth down.
This pitch, I mean, they're really close to each other here for a pitch. So should that be widened out more where maybe Kenny Mac's out here, or does that open up things? I'm asking just because the spacing on this, maybe this is what it's designed to be. It just felt a little close when I'm watching it.
Yeah, and I want to bet they teach it, just get him the ball as quickly as possible. However that works.
Because of the yardage situation, right? Because if this is 2nd and 6, you're probably not doing it this way.
You're trying to get the edge more so. But, yeah, this is more of get it as quick as you can and then go do something with it.
And he did.
A little Brett Seither block, by the way, right there in the fourth quarter. But this is why this play right here is the one which by the way, pay attention to the play. Jet motion, leak out of the backfield, tight end open underneath. We're going to see that play a little later. But that catch is just ridiculous. I mean, the one that we're going to show later that you most remember from the national championship, the ability to see that, rotate the body. This was a catchable ball that Stetson obviously, it was a catchable ball he threw, but this was one that he missed in terms of getting a big time play.
I guess technically it's outside shoulder, just the wrong one.
Yes. But you look at his receiving season, 22 catches on 26 targets, 242 yards and a couple touchdowns. It wasn't like eye-popping numbers or massive plays. It was just phenomenal catches. And that's why you see his receiving grade on the bottom of the screen there be 9. Which, by the way, when I talked earlier about rarefied air, in the Power 5, in the PFF era, so that's 8 years now. This will be our 9th year of doing college data. That's the second highest running back receiving grade in that time frame.
Wow.
Number 1 is Christian McCaffrey. Number 3 is Alvin Kamara. Like, that's some pretty good company to be in.
I'll tell you one thing. It takes a lot of discipline to do this, and I hope that people understand the ability to track the ball. We talk about that with defensive backs. You talk about it with receivers. Well, Kenny Mack is one of those. But to sell the fake here and then to be able to get the edge, he's not turning his head to look at the quarterback until this is going to end up being about 6 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. So he needs to keep his head down, turn and look, and then it's heading his way. Like, that's some discipline. And I heard actually in a practice the other day, Todd Monken telling Brock Bowers the same thing. Keep your head down until you make your break, because you're going to be fastest that way.
Yeah. And I think at any level.
And you're not going to give up where you're going. That was the other piece of it. Like, you're not going to give the indicator to the defensive back of what's coming.
Well, and you think about the timing of just throwing and catching a football. Like, it's rarely a stationary target. You're, 8 times out of 10, you're hitting somebody who's on the move. And you, as the person who are throwing that ball, have to have a gauge of speed. And if you start, all right, I'm starting to throw the ball and my head's down and I have a gauge of speed, and then all of a sudden the head goes back and that speed ticks down just a little bit, you're going to get inconsistencies. But, with him, I think you see very little of that. And you see very natural receiving skills, much like we saw with James Cook, obviously, a year ago or the past few years.
Yeah, and Cook really grew into that, and then the NFL valued it. I think they'll value the same thing in Kenny McIntosh.
I agree.
Here we are. This is South Carolina.
And this is one of those things where we talked about this earlier. Is this the greatest rep in the history of reps? No. Like, he gets kind of destroyed in a way. But this is kind of a do your job, and your job is to just get in the way and don't get your QB killed because the ball is coming out.
Give him an extra half of a beat, and it works.
And you look at the 72.2 pass block grade that you see there from him. That is kind of dunking on the rest of his teammates a season ago. With Pat, I think Cook was up there a little bit, but in terms of just sheer like Milton, Zamir White, struggle bus in terms of the pass block grade. Cook was down there at 32.1 pass block grade. So, it's one of those where you're going to see he's going to be on the field a bunch, especially in passing situations. This is something he's going to have to do, especially when you get looks like this. Yeah,
when you see a cluster of folks like this, you better at least give it a shot. Now, because like JT Daniels in this case, but Stetson Bennett, they're going to see this too and think, oh, man, I don't have much time. So you better maximize what you do have.
Yep, and it's something we've talked about all offseason. Hey, a running back's going to be able to, like Cook in the biggest moment, make a great block and make a play. I hope so. He's the one with at least the best data, the best reps on tape already.
Let's take it down to Jacksonville.
The one of 2 slip-ups he's had in, you look at, which, by the way, this is when do fumbles occur, much like Anthony Richardson's fumble with Nolan Smith that we looked at a couple weeks back, when they're just fighting for extra yards. It's always that way. Once contact happens, it's always got to be the second hand. Get the second hand, two hands on the ball once contact happens.
I mean, you like the fight, but like situationally, and sometimes you need to fight for it. Situationally, sometimes it's just better to go down.
That, or at least don't even care about what you're doing with your arms. Like, protect the football. And you look at him, he's got, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of, a couple hundred, right around 200 touches or something like that, or not even quite that. But he's got 2 fumbles and 0 drops as a receiver. So it's not like this is a problem in general for him.
Up in Atlanta against Georgia Tech, this one was interesting to me, especially from this angle. I think folks are going to like this.
And we looked at this. We actually looked at this play because I'm pretty sure Pickens was on the field on the right. And when we did the Film Don't Lie after the game, this is one where I can't gush enough about the formation and what the formation does. Like, I
can't gush enough about Darnell.
That too, him.
God,
Broderick.
Darnell just gives you so much stuff you can do.
And this is one, hey, he house called it. And, that was his, I think, biggest run of the season. I think. Biggest run of the season. Actually, his only run over 20 yards. And that's what you want to see. As Coach Donnan always says, show me taillights. Show me taillights.
You want to know how I know that Georgia has been dominating Georgia Tech? Because this is a house call here. And this ain't a whole lot of crazy celebration over here. It's just kind of like, all right, there goes again. We're getting another one, y'all.
Yeah. I think that's very, very well stated. You got one, Zamir, I think, a little bit excited for his running back brother. But I think they're going to do a lot of that. And we've seen that formation on the 4th down. We saw it there. I think they're going to do a lot of that same formation again this year.
Here we go in what was the mismatch of the Orange Bowl. I think this is an RPO here.
I mean, the fact that he executed this like he did.
You didn't even laugh at my RPO joke. Because he could have kept it, so he could run. Or he could. All right, sorry, I'm a dad and it's late.
No, I should have caught that. I was just.
You got to give me the pity laugh just as a co-host. It's not worth an actual laugh, but that's one of those that you give me.
Like,
huh?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's just a little something. All right,
but,
let's talk about his throw.
This is amazing. I mean, what they talk about after the game, how they didn't even hit it. Maybe once out of 5, however many times that they did it in practice that he did it. But he's throwing on the run, and when he ready to release the ball, the other angle is just beautiful in terms of seeing right there. Look at Mitchell. Mitchell's head is looking towards the post, and as the ball as he's separating the throw is when he turns back to the corner route. Like that's amazing from a back.
The courage is what's so unique here, because a lot of times running backs will try this, but they won't actually tuck the ball as if they're running, like give the good fake. They'll just kind of hold it out a little bit and be ready to go because they're not comfortable in that spot. It's not what they do. I mean, I'll pause it. I mean, look, he looks like he's trying to run around the edge here, even to this point, and he just quickly changes and tosses and
flicks it. I mean, that's and it's one of those where the timing of it, the game itself, all of it doesn't get any better. It's one that you've been working on for probably 6 weeks, not just one, not just the time leading up to the bowl game. They probably had that in there for much longer than that.
Oh, I promise you, there were scout teamers that saw, oh, they're running it, they're doing it.
Let's go, and that maybe they got to, they're like hitting their buddy and try not to look too excited because they know what's coming. But yes, it doesn't get any better. 1 for 1 with a touchdown. Perfect pass
unsung hero, Mr. Bowers.
Yep.
Just again,
Bowers
saving time, getting over there, getting through Georgia's own traffic. and making sure that there's a line of defense before the cluster of Wolverines. I mean, that gives Kenny McIntosh all the time and confidence he needs to execute the play.
All right, so we had Stetson, but we didn't. Obviously, Stetson's not necessarily there, but Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter. I'm trying to think some others that we've highlighted. Dan Jackson. You know, making plays on special teams.
Yeah,
it's just, and I will say I'm very intrigued to see what they do from a kick return standpoint this year,
because I don't think it'll be Kenny Mack anymore.
Because it's what I'm saying. Because in terms of options, I would love it to be Arian Smith, because I think if he makes one guy miss, he's taken to the house. But
what if you do Arian Smith and CJ Smith?
That would take your pick, either one. House call. If they get that lane right there, it's a house call. But it's been him for a while, and you look at his kick return stats. He's got 14 career kick returns, 27-yard average. I mean, very good grade from a special team standpoint. But now with him and Milton being the main two guys, now we'll say you've seen like Zamir's out there, and he
so to that end, Georgia has a bit of a history, and even preceding Kirby Smart here. But when you look at Zamir having been out there, when you look at Sonny Michel getting some play out there, going back to Todd Gurley, he was obviously a superstar at it. Like at Georgia, if you are the best option to return a kick, I don't know that it completely matters that you're likely the starting running back as well. Because at Georgia, I think they view that as an opportunity to score just like you can from the running back position.
Yep. And it's one of those where, all right, so he makes a big run like this. He's probably not going to come in the first play of the series. It'll be a Milton or Edwards. But I think, him, Arian Smith, I'd love to see Ringo back there because his high school tape is littered with massive special teams plays, return type plays. But I mean, he's good
Brock
at it.
Bowers could do it too. I know that's insane. They would never. I'm just saying, like, man, put Jalen Carter in there. He can do everything.
I think the Bowers thing is not. You could legit put him back there, and he would
do fine.
He could take it to the house.
To that point, though, this was a play where Kenny McIntosh and Zamir White are on the field together in the national championship. So, like, just because, I mean, I don't think you'll see McIntosh and Milton out there, but what if Andrew Paul's good at this? But yeah, he made plays in special teams. This was a flag, obviously, because it came back, but it's exciting in the moment, nonetheless.
Yeah, and doesn't take away from his ability. Now, if there's one area where you have to be a dual threat, and by dual threat, I'm not, it's not just saying can you catch and can you run. It's you can't just be an outside the tackle guy. And this is what did we see last year? Like if you look at sort of James Cook's numbers his first 3 years and Kenny McIntosh's numbers their first 3 years, they're almost equal. And then Cook had a monster senior season because primarily he got better between the tackles. And this is one of his better runs with patience and a cut ability. There's like 8 penalties on the play because Sawyer's head gets taken off, and then McIntosh gets the face mask penalty as well, setting up the score. But when you look at his season between the tackles, 33 carries, 113 yards. So just 3.4 yards per carry. That's where he's got to be comfortable. And, maybe it's that extra in fourth year, much like with Cook, that you just see a difference. And that's probably something we'll try to look at in Film Don't Lie when we go through the season is how well is he running between the tackles, because he's going to get some counters. And there were, like I remember against Kentucky, horrible cut on a counter play that he made. It was very clear where he needed to go, and he sort of shifted and went other places. That's where he's got to keep, and seeing this, like he's got the vision for it. It's just a matter of seeing it and then sort of, and you'll hear me, I've said this a million times and I will always say it with running backs. It's patience to the hole and then accelerate through the hole. And that's what he does here.
And this, obviously there's the penalty with Sawyer here at right guard, but this is not the best block from Warren McClendon either, just because he doesn't maintain it through his running back getting kind of behind him here. So I I thought on this play, Kenny Mack did an okay job. It's just one of those that could have been better.
Well, it's just that this is one of his better runs between the tackles where he's putting his head down and getting what he can get. It's just something that you didn't see a lot of this past season.
Well, and, to that end, put your players in their best chance to succeed, right? And I think we've seen where Kendall Milton really thrives between the tackles, but you don't want to pigeonhole one of them one way or the other as well,
right?
Because that can also be an indicator of what the defense can expect. If they only think that Milton's going to run between the tackles or early in downs or that Kenny Mack's the receiving running back, all those labels hurt your team if they're true.
Very much so. And we saw the Missouri catch earlier. Jet motion, fake the counter, tight end leaks out, and you got the running back leak. This is just this is unreal. It's ridiculous concentration to make this catch. And by the way, this was the drive that went down to put them ahead. This is before the 80 Mitchell touchdown. I mean, that's amazing.
Do you want to count amazing. It? Is that what you want to do?
I don't know, but it's
1.
We got how many?
2, 3, 4, 5.
Reels it in.
So somewhere in the 5th or 6th, he reels it in.
That's ridiculous. And by the way, Stetson did a good job of throwing this ball because if he leads him, he gets depleted. Just put it on him right there and go get it. And that's what his strength is. And he's going to keep doing it, and he's going to be a threat this season. And like you see here, we got Cook on the field with him. Hopefully you see – we saw Milton involved in the pass game a little more so in the spring game. I think as long as both of those guys can kind of be – that you don't become predictable, your offense is going to be unstoppable.
This is just this formation, even before you really check out what they're doing, just the personnel that you have. All right, Kenny Mack, he's back. Mr. Bowers, yeah, we know about you. McConkey, Mitchell, okay. So this could be like any number of about 10 playmakers for Georgia. If you want to go running back, cool. If you want that to be Gilbert, that could work out. You want Dom Blaylock?
Blaylock or Kyrus. I think that's where you go. Yep. I will say one of the rarely, and I think that's something they could do more of this upcoming season, is actually giving the ball on that action to the jet motion guy. They rarely do that pop pass type stuff. Just
when they did do the jet motion give, it ended up usually being to Bowers or McConkey had 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, but it was a rare sight for them, and I realize the eye candy and what it's supposed to do, and it does it well. But I would like to see it as a give almost, is to throw it in there one time every couple weeks, just so it is a threat. But it's just ridiculous concentration. Like we talked about, his receiving grade a year ago puts him in rarefied air for at least in a single season. But it's you look him back, Milton back, Edwards back, the 2 freshmen.
Well, and I'm going to highlight here again, Mr. Bowers. Call this a foreshadowing for our final episode if you want. Just look how good he is at getting through all of this mess and still being an active receiver on this play or looking for someone to block. Like he gets his block and then leaks out.
Mm-hmm. And if Anderson isn't sort of trailing back, he's probably the primary target in a way. But the foreshadowing is real. I would almost challenge the folks that are watching live, however many that are, to put in your best Brock Bowers play, because there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I can't even think of. Let's see. Curtis Maximus says, "How about the block from Bowers? Best seat in the house." Yeah,
that was on the throw. I think when he put that up there.
Yeah, that was a few minutes ago. All right, cool. So we are through to our final one. We've pretty much told you it's going to be Brock Bowers, but you can still act surprised when we reveal our final one on this list of top returning Bulldogs. I think we've said that for about 3 weeks now, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Brock Bowers is really good at football. Kenny McIntosh is really good at football, so I'm glad that we got a chance to chat about him. And we'll wrap this series next week, and students will be back on campus at UGA next week. Football's pretty much here, my friend.
It is. I mean, you've gotten to go to practice a couple of times for small snippets of it. I mean, when we started this, I think it was May. I mean, that's a long list that we've gone through of players, and there's a couple that we could have highlighted that we didn't necessarily because of either snap count or their grade was just a tick low in terms of just missing the cut of 70, like Robert Beal, for example.
Yeah, and that's one that people are asking about. It's like, how do you lead the team in sacks and then not be on this list? Well, PFF grading has a different – just because you get the sack doesn't mean that you were necessarily in the right position. It can be other people that led to that or someone running into you, or there's a whole different – Now, I will say, in standing beside Robert Beal, he'll be on this list of Georgia's top performers from this season.
Yes.
And big.
Well, it's, the sack thing is always the easiest go-to for that is always you could just say, hey, Vic Beasley led the league in sacks one year in the NFL. Like that's kind of that's how you go there. But yes, okay, so we got the twisting catch against Auburn for Bowers. We got the breakaway from Georgia Tech, I think is definitely there. Yeah. Just because it doesn't get any better than that. One of the jet sweeps that
I was talking about.
Yep. The unique ways you can use him. There's going to be so many. And I think what we'll probably try to do is we'll try to highlight some things maybe that folks didn't necessarily see. Like
because everyone saw the national championship catch. We saw Rosemary block for him. We know what happened there. Not to say we'll probably still include that because it was pretty pivotal.
Yes. But I agree. There's a lot of things with him I think that probably don't come to mind that, like, I saw Coach Dan Casey, who does a great job of just posting practice type stuff and just football videos in general on Twitter today, posted the slip screen against Kentucky that he housed that got called back. I think it was early in the third quarter, like where he just speed and power. All right, what we got? Yeah, Tech.
Z-Dog says the one against Tech. Maybe we just lead with that one. We'll do that first. And
I think I
agree with you, Z-Dog.
Because my neighbor, he stole my thunder. I did like a still picture on Twitter of the number of guys that when he caught the ball that potentially could have tackled him. I think that ended up on game day.
Business decision.
Yeah. Hey, it was the right thing to talk about.
We'll talk more about Bowers in our next episode. And then shortly after that, I hope people will get ready. Around the League will be returning for the fall. So that's a podcast where Brent and myself and head coach Jim Donnan talk about what's going on in the SEC. We touch on Georgia as well, but I think it's important to talk about what's happening around the league. And it's named that apropos because ATL, around the league, that's how you get to Atlanta, to where you can win the title. Which, as great as the celebration has been for Georgia, that's something that they did not accomplish last season. So I would imagine if they're checking things off the bucket list, going to get a win in Atlanta in the SEC championship game will probably be right there at the top. Just under, repeating for national.
Well, it's every year. It's the stepping stone for them. Hey, we're going to go to me, like goals watch. Hey, we're going to win the East. To me, I would almost go undefeated against the East is a goal. Should be the goal. SEC championship game, and then because you get there, you're in the playoff.
Yeah. I mean, if you go undefeated in the East, really, if you go undefeated in your regular season schedule, then you're three games away from the title, and you're going to be in the playoff, even if you lose in Atlanta. But at that point, it's like you need to win 3 in a row, and you can't lose the second 2. So however that works out for you. We could talk about that stuff all day long. Again, that's Brent Rollins. I'm Dane Young. We are doing that. That's this time of season.
We will on that show.
We're going to wrap this episode. Plenty more content here on our YouTube channel. I believe that Georgia will probably be offering Todd Monken up to a microphone to talk to media on Thursday. So that will be here on this YouTube channel if indeed that does come to pass. If it doesn't, do not trash my Twitter feed. But that's what it sounds like is happening. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. For Brent Rollins, I'm Dane Young. Thanks for watching UGAsports.com.